with us on this Monday edition of Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Hope you had a great weekend. The numbers don't lie. Campaigns are campaigns. They send out releases all the time. There was a release that was sent out and a statement sent out over the weekend that really caught my attention, and it was from Senator Bernie Sanders and his campaign pointing out the disproportionate amount of news coverage that one in particular candidate is getting, and of course that's Donald Trump, but also pointing out that there has been very little evening news coverage of Bernie Sanders. And, you know, as I said, the numbers don't lie. There's an organization out there, or a report out there in the industry called the Tyndall Report. And what the Tyndall Report does is track the various nightly news programs on the big three networks. And the report's campaign findings cover that the network evening newscast from January 1st of 2015 to the end of November of 2015, just a few weeks ago, the results confirm that Donald Trump, who regularly attracts between 20 and 30% of primary voter support, while at the same time widely underplaying the coverage of Bernie Sanders, who gets basically the same amount of support from Democratic voters. The Tyndall Report provided the breakdown by the network of Sanders' 10 minutes of news coverage. The CBS Evening News has done Bernie 6.4 minutes. The Nightly News on NBC 2.9 minutes. And World News Tonight with David Muir 0.3%. It shouldn't be funny because it's about our democracy. It's about a debate. And it just shows that the networks are chasing ratings. That's what they're concerned about. In terms of standalone campaign stories this year, it's been 234 minutes for Trump compared to 10 minutes of Sanders. And at World News Tonight, it's been 81 minutes for Trump and less than 1 minute. Think about that. Less than 1 minute of news coverage on ABC News, World News Tonight for a major candidate. Now, I find that startling. You mean to tell me that Bernie isn't talking about the issues? Come on. All of the things that he's talking about poll in the majority. He has changed this campaign from the standpoint of Keystone, from the standpoint of trade, and forced the frontrunner, Hillary Clinton, to make moves. I said on this production last week that Donald Trump is the best thing that's ever happened to Hillary Clinton because he's sucking all the air out of the room while she has the lead on the Democratic side and Bernie doesn't get any attention. And so now the candidate, it's just not surrogates. It's the candidate himself who's talking about the corporate media in this press release of the weekend, pointing out these disproportionate numbers of coverage. So what's fair? What's important? How is Bernie Sanders or any candidate put in that position supposed to level the playing field? Is it social media? Is it just spending more money? What is it? Do the network newscasts have an obligation to make sure that all of the campaigns are covered? The answer to that is no, because no one's forcing them to change. For more on this, let's turn to Larry Cohen. He's a former president of Communication Workers of America and also the chair of the Democracy Initiative. Larry, good to have you back with us.
My pleasure.
Your thoughts on these numbers, and I've got some other numbers here as well. The polling, Hillary's going up, but so is Bernie going up. I mean, he's clearly within striking distance, but he's also fighting a name recognition issue as opposed to Hillary Clinton, as any candidate would. But how do you suppose to get your name out there if you can't get the major news networks to cover you? Your thoughts on all this? What's the uphill battle?
Yeah, well, as you just said, it's atrocious. The idea that ABC has that kind of ratio of 80 minutes versus actually 20 seconds is what Bernie's coverage amounts to on ABC, and the others are almost as bad. So, for us, it's grassroots. 2 million people are involved in this campaign in some way. Over 800,000 have donated on average twice. Bernie was in Iowa the last 2 days. Again, incredible enthusiasm. There's a huge staff in Iowa, thanks to that small donor contributions.
See, now let me just stop you there. Yeah. In Iowa the last couple of days, I didn't see any coverage of Bernie Sanders in Iowa.
No coverage on national media. But in Iowa, there is coverage. He was on the Mississippi that whole time on the Iowa side. And it's all going to be about turnout in Iowa caucuses. And, The key is, can we turn out the popularity of Bernie Sanders on February 1st? That's what it's going to come down to. And the 80 staff that are there, that's their job. It's not, it's very concrete. Can we turn out the people who have shown up in Iowa? If everybody who showed up at a Bernie event in Iowa turns out, he wins the Iowa caucus. So it's a question of encouraging people about what our task is. It's not only winning the presidency, it's changing this party. It's building a populist movement that's going to go on and on. If people see it that way, they're going to show up. If the national media discourages them that Bernie can't win, the turnout drops down, and then the numbers are worse.
Well,
that's really our challenge.
Okay, so get out the vote. And the question is, are the Sanders supporters more motivated than the Clinton supporters? I do think that there is a pervasive attitude amongst national news people that, well, Bernie can't win. He's not going to beat Hillary. It's the Clinton machine, so why cover it? Do you sense that when you communicate with these network reporters and producers?
Yeah. Yes, and that's part of what I do every day. And absolutely, in every single case, it's as if we're in July in Philadelphia, as opposed to that we're building a national movement that not only can he actually win the nomination, but no matter what, there's going to be over 1,000 delegates, and we're going to change this party. And people should realize, I've been doing a lot of work on New York in the last week, the incredible enthusiasm in a place like New York, where she now makes her home and used to be a senator. The enthusiasm for Bernie, including electeds, is unbelievable. Working Families Party endorsed last week. Today, New York Citizen Action will endorse. They're both enormous in that state. Mm-hmm. More to come this week from New York. And we're going to show right now that in New York, with over 250 popularly elected delegates that actually have to run, we're going to clean up. Yeah. And I think we have to get it in that frame. It's not just about Iowa and New Hampshire. It's about changing this country through this campaign.
The other day, the Sanders campaign, Bernie Sanders picked up an endorsement from Working Families Coalition. He ended up on page A30 of the New York Times. That's where it was.
Yeah.
So it's not only just the networks. It's the major print media as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, particularly the New York Times. And again, that Working Families Party is a national network now in 9 states, but its base is really in New York. And it's enormously important in New York, as is the New York Citizen Action endorsement coming today. And it's Grassroots. And that vote, they did a membership vote. 87% voted for Bernie in a party that's based mainly in New York State. Mm-hmm. These numbers are shocking. And we have to translate that into this mass populist movement, as I call it.
Okay, I think you being a former union head, the president of Communication Workers of America for a number of years, maybe you can speak more freely on this. Some of the unions have endorsed candidates, some have not. And are these endorsements coming from management of the unions, or are these endorsements actually coming from the member, the rank and file? Is this when I see an endorsement of a particular union, is it the rank and file that's saying, yes, we want candidate X over Y? What is it?
Well, no, very few of them. Actually, only 2 unions, national unions, have given members the opportunity to vote like Working Families Party did. I'm proud of my union. The CWA is one that has. That'll be announced on Thursday of this week. The results of that went on for 6 weeks, online voting with tens of thousands voting. Mm-hmm. The National Nurses United did that very early on and endorsed Bernie. But no, the rest of them have been an executive board or a president, and they can do that. And I'm not criticizing them for doing it, but we should recognize the difference. In every single poll that's let activists vote, Bernie has won, whether it's Time Magazine Person of the Year, or, whether it's the Working Families Party announced last week. And I think, again, we take heart. The activist base of this country that votes online is overwhelmingly for Bernie Sanders. They say in chorus, enough is enough, no more business as usual. Let's build the political revolution.
All right, so understanding the process is important when we see the headline or who's getting endorsements and where. The next step for Bernie's campaign, in Iowa to turn out the vote, how do you do that? What, you go door to door, you pick people up, you take them, and is there a certain demographic that's going to be more energized than another? What about all that?
No, you've nailed it. So it's February 1. Typically, it's the winter, although with climate change, the weather could be like this. So it's who will show up and spend typically 3 hours. It's county by county, and then it's a complicated process to assemble who the delegates are, who then choose the actual delegates. It's a relatively small state in terms of the number of actual delegates. But what gets reported that night is the number of caucus goers. If in any of those rooms there's less than 15% for a candidate, which there will be for O'Malley in every room, they can't stay in that corner of the room they're in. They got to go to one of the other corners. So it's very complicated. It takes 3 hours. Our main strategy is to work the people who have shown up at these meetings. We have the emails of all of them. And then, as I said, we have about 80 staff, and they're divided up by county. There's, I think, 27 field offices to split it up, geographically. And every organizer is assigned a county, and in some cases 2 counties. And we have a leadership group in every single county of activists who are volunteering. Yes, they do go door to door, but frankly, in Iowa, that's a painful process because you're looking for, to think about, are we going to knock on a door of somebody we're going to move to show up, 90 days from now or 80 days from now?
Yeah.
That's like a needle in a haystack. So I think the bigger thing is to, Bernie in every county, campaign events without him in every county, building that activist base in every county, building the email base in every county, and very focused on young voters. He has 80%, that latest Iowa poll. 80% of voters under 45 are caucusing for Bernie Sanders. That's our demographic. We've got to turn out young voters.
Larry Cohen, always great to visit, former president of Communication Workers of America, and now the chairman of the Democracy Initiative. Larry, good to visit. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.